Hello and welcome to this edition of Your Questions Answered with Father Gruner. I'm John Veneri. We take your questions on this program. Father Gruner answers them. We talk about them. Please continue to email your questions to us. You can see the email at the bottom of the screen, questions@thefatimacenter.com. We have a question today from a priest who will be unnamed, but he says, what should priests do who are, quote unquote, not allowed to celebrate the Latin Tridentine Mass by their major superiors, general ministers, local bishops, and local superiors?
Okay, so when he says general superior, general ministry, that means he's referring to his superior general, somebody. But so depending on whatever community.
Basically, everybody who could say no said no.
Or if any one of them says no, so even if the superior general allows them to, but the superior in their province says no, or in the superior in their house says no, or in the case of bishops or somewhere else. And I'm going to add, well, what about poor priests who are just traveling somewhere and have to, depend on the good, the hospitality of their priest host, or the assistant parish priest in a parish. I mean, so I've met people. Of course, I can think of one assistant parish priest who was reduced to saying the Tridentine Mass in his room because he wasn't allowed to say it, and he eventually left the diocese because and says the Mass every day, in a chapel for the people who want to go to the Latin Mass every day. So, but I guess before we talk about what they should do, I think we should need to establish some of the principles behind this. The first principle, and obviously it's too hard to fit this all into a 5-minute answer to the question, but
we can break it up if you like.
The first principle is that the Tridentine Mass is the Mass that the Council of Trent has defined cannot be substituted by a new Mass. And you find that in not just the Mass, but all the traditional sacraments. I mean, the ceremonies of the traditional sacraments, not just the sacraments themselves. But in this case, the Mass we're talking about not just the words of consecration, but the whole ceremony, which from the time the priest says I believe in God, in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, to the end of the last Gospel, this is all set in stone as not being able to be changed or substituted by another. And so that is, you'll find that in the Council of Trent, Session 7 on the sacraments, Canon 13. If anyone says that any pastor of any rank whatsoever, and it says any rank whatsoever, that means it includes the Pope, says that the received and approved rights can be substituted by other and different rights, that would be anathema. So the anathema is that those who say that the Pope has the power to do this. So that's Catholic dogma, and it's explained quite well. And it's actually Father Kramer's book, The Suicide of Ultimate Faith and Liturgy, and he goes on for 100 pages.
Yeah, he explains it very well.
But having said that, then you have the alleged change in the new Mass that was mandated or commanded by Paul VI in 1969, 1970. Well, first of all, it was never that command, that new document, that new Mass was never authorized legally to replace the old Mass. Now we're talking, first dogma says you can't do it, and then canon law says it wasn't done. And you might say, well, it's just your opinion, Father Gruner, but it wasn't just my opinion, it was the opinion of any canonist who looked at this. But in 2007, Pope Benedict XVI said in his motu proprio, published on the 7th day of the 7th month of the 7th year, July 7th, 2007, he published saying that this old Mass was never forbidden, nor could it be forbidden. And no one has the authority to forbid it. Not the bishop, not the local minister, not the superior general, not the general minister, not anybody else. So they don't have, both in dogma and in law. And of course, law is to reflect dogma, it's not the other way around. As St. Thomas points out, the law is the ordination of reason for the common good. And so it's not for the common good to suppress something which the dogma of the Church says you can't suppress or can be substituted for. But anyway, so both law and dogma are agreement fully, which ties in, of course, with the Bull Quo Primum, which says that even the Pope says in his Bull Quo Primum, people think that's just a canonical decree. No, it's actually a dogmatic decree, which says no one has the right to do this. And Benedict, in our time, that is
2007,
7 years ago, has said that this was not changed and no one has the right to change it. So, having established all those things, And of course, for those who want to argue, we have all sorts of documentation for that. But at least we can, having established those two principles, then what is a priest to do knowing this? Well, the answer is you ignore them. You just pretend. Now, we're not suggesting you go to war, but so as long as you have access to an altar and the instruments you need, such cruets and candles and a chalice and a paten and so forth, a priest paten, a host and wine and water, you say the Mass. Now, if someone says, "Oh, but they're going to forbid you by physically forbidding getting in your way, so you can't do that," but then you have to either do it in private where they don't know you're doing it, or you leave their presence and you go to another place where you're allowed to. This is something they don't have a right to, and you're not being disobedient, you're not being schismatic, and you're not being disrespectful to insist that you say the rite of the Mass according to the way you're supposed to say it, in which the law commands, which dogma demands that you say it. And so you say the Mass. That's what you do, in answer. And you take, now if they need some help because they can't find any place to go, get in touch with us, and I'm sure that there are many people who would be able to support them. And we can certainly help them in their transition if they need to.
Well, what we're faced with too is when the priests meet with this refusal, there is this uncanny hatred of the old Mass from too many. I was just talking with a priest this past week, a traditional priest who says the old Mass, and he went to some large Jesuit institution in Europe. I won't say which one it is, but he said that well, may I use your altar to say Mass? And the Jesuits said to him, not the Tridentine Mass, not the Old Latin Mass. And he said, yes, the Old Latin Mass. They said, absolutely not. And the priest said, well, we do have Pope Benedict's motu proprio of 2007 saying that the Mass was not forbidden and couldn't be. And the Jesuits just said flat out, we don't recognize that here. Just flat out, we don't recognize it.
Yeah.
So this shows a perfidy,
Yes.
a faithlessness, and also an abuse of authority,
Yes.
and an abuse of what this person should be as a priest,
Yes.
really.
All of that. So in the meantime, what's the priest to do? I mean, the answer is to find your place where you're welcome to say the Tridentine Mass. And if you can't find a place, let us know. We'll find a place for you, or at least I wouldn't say we'll find a place for you. We'll assist you in finding a place that you find acceptable.
Yeah. There's lots of good people who are looking for the Mass and
Yes.
and need help.
Yes.
So thank you for that, Father, and we'll pick up on the next program next time.